Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Civilization Battle Royale X Season 2, Episode 4 and 5, PRCast, where you will see your friendly neighborhood power rankers talk about the last episode, or in this case, the last two episodes, and discuss it, because why not? That's something to do. I am your head power ranker, though I don't really do all that much anymore. I'm your head power ranker, JMAn, also known as TickieJames on Twitch, also known as VideoJames on YouTube. Remember to follow, like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, whatever you want to do. And, yeah. Oh, God, I forgot to mute. I forgot to mute the video. Anywho. And hello, Sarah said Serio. Hopefully you guys might start seeing that I have a chat box open. I don't know if it works. But that's me. With me today, I also have Admiral Cloudberg.
Hello, that is me.
He didn't just go, hi, like last time. Awesome to see.
Every time.
Yeah.
I decided to humor you.
Yeah. I also have with us, Lacsirax Ariscal.
If any of you want to come to York and come on the Red City sightseeing buses, I should be able to get you a discount.
We are also joined by Mr. Msurdej.
Hello.
And we are also joined with Rosay, who is working on a project.
Editor's notes, screw VirtualBox.
Yes. Anywho.
Oh, I agree, 100%.
So you guys might be sitting there, if you guys are subscribed to my YouTube channel or usually see the PRCast on my YouTube channel, you guys might be a little bit confused, like, hey, why wasn't there an episode 4 2 weeks ago? Well, I didn't do episode 4 2 weeks ago because everybody that wasn't me was just not free during the day of the stream. And why am I getting...
I think it's an ad.
Oh, it is an ad. You're right.
Yep. It seems like Discount Among Us.
It's fun. I've played First Class. I think that's...
There is a discount among us. What?
Yeah. Anywho, so we just weren't available, and then I said, oh, let's do it the day after instead. You know, it won't be too big a deal. And then I slept through the time we were supposed to start, so I just said, screw it, we're gonna do it, like, next week. Or after next episode. So we're going to talk a little bit about episode 4, but we're mostly talking about episode 5 today. Aside from that, how are you guys doing? How was your week off from PRcast responsibilities?
It was great. I finally got to go on holiday.
Yeah,
Decent.
Alex suddenly had so much more free time. No.
Yeah. But back to the grind, eh?
Back to the old grind.
Yeah, I feel you guys there. I'm currently on spring break because the school I teach at, all the kiddos want to go to Florida. So we're going to let them get COVID and see what happens.
Well, my university decided that they just weren't going to give us a spring break in order to prevent that.
Oh, yeah. All the universities I've seen have been taking away spring break for the sake of the pandemic. But my kids are in school, and I'm a teacher, and I really need a fucking break. That aside, I've been getting into painting Warhammer models again, so that's been fun.
Oh, nice.
What army? What's your army?
My army is Hedonites of Slaanesh. I have 1,890 points currently in my house right now. I'm getting the last 110 once an order has arrived at my friendly local game store.
I have no idea what any of that means.
They're like the Space Marines, but the bad ones, right?
No.
They're...
Hedonites of Slaanesh. So that you're thinking of Warhammer 40,000. I'm playing Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is the mythology fantasy Warhammer.
So like Space Marines, but old and bad.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I'm playing evil guys. I'm playing the worshippers of the god of excess, and so it's a bunch of demons and a bunch of like dudes who really really have a lot of issues with themselves, I suppose. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. Rosay, what are you working on for your project right now?
It's an intrusion detection system. We have barely started it, and code is spaghetti at best.
All right. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Before we begin, does anybody else want to share about their day, just to add a little more personality to the PR cast?
I don't know. I had a day. It began in the beginning, and it has gone for, I don't know, like 7 hours now.
Yeah, that just about sums mine up.
You're not getting those 7 hours back either. They're gone for good.
Right.
Yeah, they are.
Well, you gotta do what you
It
can.
bothers me.
Okay, so let's talk about episode 4, because episode 4 was the first episode where Punjab overtook provisional all-Russian government, correct?
Yep.
So
They are no longer the park champ.
yeah, so we still have Punjab in first for episode 5, so I thought it was pertinent to talk about it regardless. So what do we have to say? What rocketed Punjab in first in the first place?
Well, one, they founded a lot of cities. Two, they took a lot of cities in war, and they did it very easily. I mean, yeah, they made it look easy.
Right.
And those are really the main reasons. So their stats were not number one after episode 4, but I'm pretty sure they're damn close to number one after episode 5. So I think that only continues to justify our decision.
All right, good to know.
Yeah, bringing up the stat sheets now, they're now in second. They've overtaken the Parg by 1 spot, and the top is Germany with its ridiculous 344 production.
Of which
Not
about
bad.
a third is coming from their unique ability, which gives them extra production when they for each war that they're in. So if Germany suddenly finds itself at peace, Punjab is probably going to shoot up to first in the stats.
I think another reason we had to move Punjab, or we did move Punjab number 1 in episode 4, was Park didn't have a great episode themselves. It was a little bit mid. They did have a much better episode 5. They set a lot of new cities there and built their stats up well. But as well as that, Punjab have something Park don't, and that is squishy neighbours. Park have struggled against Northern Yuan and Perm already. They did take a city off Perm. They actually lost a city to Northern Yuan. And their only other major border is Uzbekistan, who are also pretty beefy. So while Park's statistics, may be very superlative, it's a little bit like how Germany are the top dog statistic-wise, but we can't rank them that high when they're right next to the Gauls and the Soviets and two Sicilies, to be honest. So Punjab, on the other hand, we've got Chola, we've got Bhutan, of course, the Kurdistan on the other side of the Zagros, and then Uzbekistan again, which are a much squishier set of borders. The issue, I think, with Punjab, which Park perhaps don't have, is that even if Punjab builds a huge army, for the time being, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to invade on most fronts, just because of the terrain that they're in is really, really rough. So until we get some more modern units, I think it's going to be difficult for them to make major progress against most of those borders. Whereas if Park build a huge army and just sweep through Northern Yuan or Uzbekistan, they could theoretically double the size of their empire in like 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's a big if, because for all we know, it could turn out that those civs are rather difficult to invade.
Oh, of course. These are all ifs. These are all ifs.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
yeah, that's I think the main differences between the two.
Yeah.
And it should be said, they are the two nations are very, very close to the top. In fact, for episode 5, Parg were going to retake the number 1 spot until somebody came in at the last minute to rank Parg all the way down in 7th.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Because
somebody did that, and so Punjab is still first.
I can't tell who they are at risk of being fired.
Oh my god. So I don't know who's messaging right now, but I'm getting 1,000 pings from Discord, and I don't know from where, and I really want it to stop. Somebody help me.
I can't help you.
I don't know. I can't help you either. I have no idea what it is.
Just close Discord, my dude.
It's probably I
Yeah,
don't know,
close
maybe-
Discord as both the streamer and the guy talking to everyone.
Oh,
Brilliant
yeah.
plan. I see no problems.
yeah, exactly.
JMAn just dips. Yeah, no. Yeah. Anyway, we almost ranked Parg first again, but that was fortunately it didn't happen.
Ironically enough, I had Pog in third, even though I've been pretty supportive of him this whole time. Though it probably would have changed the outcome.
Yeah. Anyone who ranked, actually, I mean, I guess anyone who ranked Parg anywhere other than first was instrumental to them not being first.
Right.
How close it was.
I will say I was one of those who had Parg at first. I think for me, we still don't really know what the ceiling for Parg is at the moment. That's what's quite exciting about them. Punjab, they're building a lot of cities. They are pretty much now running out of room, and they're on 17 cities. Parg are on 20 cities. They've still got loads more space to settle. I could still see Parg becoming a huge powerhouse very, very easily, especially if they keep settling at the rate they did. They got 5 cities last episode.
See,
Punjab got 3.
So
That's why I put Parg in number 1 myself.
I'm gonna come out and say it that for episode 5 I ranked Parg 7th. And
Oh, really? Did you?
Yeah.
Did you? I didn't realize.
So
Scandalous.
I know. So for anyone that's wondering why Parg isn't in second, up until I was the last person to submit my rankings, and my rank was the one that offset Parg and put them into second place, because I ranked them 7th. And for me, that was a reasonable rank because I do still find that Parg is a top 10 civilization, but I'm in the situation where I have to recognize, listen, they might be the biggest, they might have the most room to grow, but they are still in tundra, for one. And 2, they are surrounded by very powerful neighbors, being Northern Yuan, Uzbekistan, and Punjab, and then even the most deadly of all, Georgia. And
They don't bother Punjab yet, but yeah.
I'd like to make a counter argument to that and say that there is one more powerful enemy than Georgia, which being, of course, Great Perm.
Well, that's where there's oh, I'm getting reverb from you now.
Yeah, I'm getting an echo though.
That's where I have to say, well, it's actually a bit weirder than that, because there's only a couple tiles where PARG can actually invade Great Perm from right now. I never thought that the Ural Mountains would be so instrumental in defining the region, yet here we are, because the only city that was taken from Great Perm by PARG is Berezhniki, and Berezhniki was the only city that was settled past the Ural Mountain range. And so if that is kind of our litmus test to figure out PARG's capabilities in the west until they're able to move further down south, or until they're able to invent paratroopers or XComs, then my hopes aren't high for them, if I'm being honest with you guys.
They don't need to invade Perm. The idea that we can determine how decent a civilization they are by whether they can invade Perm or not is ludicrous.
Oh,
like,
no.
if they did invade Perm, if they took Great Perm, then what would that mean? Well, it just means that the USSR can take those cities because it's really hard for Parg to reinforce with a big mountain range in between. That's all it means.
And even if they take all those cities, they still have to get those 2 cities north of Great Perm,
which will bring their score down. What they've got to do is they've got to keep bulking up, which is what they're doing. They've got to build a big army, and they've got to rush Northern Yuan and Uzbekistan when they're in a moment of weakness. And both of those cities are likely to be a moment of weakness. Uzbekistan because they've got Punjab as a neighbor, and Northern Yuan because they keep building a huge army and then just throwing it at Yuan, having it evaporate immediately. So I really, for me, Park just have the highest ceiling by miles at the moment. They don't have to do a lot to stay in the top ranking, and I think that's why I'm struggling to move them away from number 1, even though it feels quite a boring rank, because they're bulking up in the less camera happy way, in the more sort of camera shy, peacefully bulking up and getting ready to strike kind of way, rather than being some sort of firebrand invading loads of neighboring civs like Germany are doing, for example.
Yeah, with Germany, it's like it's tempting to rank them. Like I know somebody did rank them number one, and it's tempting because it's like, ooh, fireworks. But do they
there's,
really?
there's an argument to it. I mean, they're number one in the stats. There's definitely an argument to it. It's just Germany are cramped, and Germany have even stronger borders than Prague, arguably, relatively to
I
how
totally,
Germany.
I totally believe Germany could win the game, but right
yeah,
now, not really. They're the most likely.
I mean, I'd put anyone in my top 40s could win the game at the moment. I mean, where were Moors at this point, episode 5? Not that high.
Now, my top 20 is maybe the outer limit for who I think could still win the game.
Well, can we? Would people be outraged if I talked about our newest entry to the superpower group then? Because this is also in a civilization that did see somebody rank them at number 1 with some justification.
Oh, you mean
And
Zanzibar?
that is the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about Taiping. I'd love to talk about Taiping.
Yeah,
So
I'm starting to think that maybe Hong Xiuquan actually is the brother of Jesus.
It's a possibility.
He is quite deadly. I mean, episode 5, which nobody on who's watching the video right now or stream is seeing episode 5. They're watching episode 4 as it plays out. But Taiping got 1 or 2 cities off of Bhutan in episode 5.
One.
They got one city off Bhutan.
Bhutan lost a city to Yuan as well.
Yeah.
Which was off screen.
It's a pretty sloppy result for Bhutan, but we were expecting that from them. But yeah, Taiping's growing. It's surprising that they haven't really pushed on their northerly neighbors, but they're still probably the biggest threat in all of China right now.
Easily. I mean, they haven't. It's like they were really slow to expand at first, and we sort of lost confidence. And then suddenly, the past couple of episodes, they decided, what if we just built nothing but settlers? And so they've filled it. They're filling out China extremely rapidly. Now they're heading for all the Southeast Asian islands, settling the Philippines. They're about to settle Japan. They've got more settlers going in every direction. It's really quite insane.
They're also really high populations as well. That core is really high population compared to a lot of other cores.
Yeah, it's very
Nigeria that's got a similar level of just like solidly high population cities across the board.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the other thing I think is interesting about Taiping, we've been talking a lot about neighbors and how that affects our rankings. And I think this was one of the person who ranked them first argument for ranking them so high, which is that their borders are Yuan, Manchu, Bhutan, Vietnam, Laos. That's a nice set of neighbors to have.
That's a pretty solid argument, if you ask me.
That's a pretty solid argument, but there's one key thing. Vietnam might not be a neighbor much longer, because
they're gonna die.
Taiping's knocking on the door.
Yeah, that's not a negative. The fact that they had a weak neighbor and they actually capitalized on that. It's not like suddenly this it's a negative now that neighbor is gone. It just means they've realized their gains.
Absolutely.
Metaphor.
I think Hanoi will flip in a 1v1 between Malacca and Taiping. Taiping is definitely superior.
Yeah, for sure. I think Hanoi will flip back to Vietnam first thing next episode, but we'll see how the war ends. If you look at the left screen, it looks like Vietnam have enough troops there to flip it back.
We're all here for Ho Chi Minh.
It's not going to last, though.
I feel
you
bad.
say that, but Pristina shouldn't have lasted, and it did, so it can happen.
Speaking of
Burkina
Vietnam,
Faso should have held, but Burkina Faso should have held the Tuareg city, but here we are.
So
it's not a fucking conclusion. That's all I'm saying.
Speaking of Vietnam, I think that's a great way to just start talking about who's dying. Hopes that we had, things that are so we can talk about Kimru, we can talk about Wales, we can talk about Vietnam. There's a lot of civs that are currently on the chopping block as of episode 5 that I think need to be addressed.
Before we get to that, can I mention my top one civ that has gotten several people minced?
Your top what, sorry?
I had Kulin as number 1 because I feel like...
Oh yeah, no, you're not allowed to do that. Rosie, this is your final warning. If you do that again, you're out of the power rankers.
Yeah, it's house rules. You can't rank Australian Civ first.
You're not allowed to rank Australian Civs number one. It's just an old tradition we have. It's,
Until
An
they
old
take
tradition.
over a key portion of the mainland.
Yes,
And that happens, fine. Rank them for one. But until then, no.
I'm getting flashbacks to Power Rankings episode 0 for Mark II, where Australia was ranked first.
well, that's because
Very
Australia
first
was ranked
power rank.
first, the final episode of Mark 1. So it was sort of like a little continuation of that.
For the record, the second that Kunin gets onto the Indochina mainland, that's where all gloves are off, and I'm probably gonna put them as number 1 again.
Okay.
No, I mean it's fair. I mean, certainly they are the earliest to unite Australia, obviously since Mark II. Since Mark 1 doesn't really count. They are the earliest to unite Australia, which does give them a huge advantage over, especially where Australia were back in CBRX Season 1. Do I think it will matter, though? I don't know. The Coolan aren't a bad civ. They had a very bad reputation when they first came out as being a really bad AI. I think it's based on a couple of early games, but the more I see them, the more I think they are pretty competent. So I think they could definitely give Malika a run for their money. We'll see what happens with the next major war between those two. If Australia make landfall onto Borneo, if they start taking over those big cities, then I could definitely start to have faith that they could actually push further forward. Given how early they've come to the.
I think currently there's a
come to the
narrow
crown.
window where Malacca probably has the military advantage over Kulin, just because Malacca has researched Compass and Kulin hasn't. But that's not going to last very long. So if Malacca wants to strike, they better do it now.
True, although it may well be that Malacca keeps the naval tech advantage. I think Malacca are a naval civ. They tend to bias naval tech. So
Yeah,
I
that's
think they
true.
keep keeping
Kulin
naval
definitely
advantage for a
isn't.
while.
And their capital isn't on the coast either. So,
No,
or is it?
no.
No, it is actually.
Which one? Who's capital? Sorry.
Kulin's.
Um,
Is it on the coast or not?
I think it
It's hard
is.
to
It's
tell.
Melbourne.
Oh, Sarah said Serio comments, hey, they haven't united Australia just yet. Armada can still take them.
Yes, the free city of Hamada.
I'd love to see it. I'd love
Yeah.
to see it.
Anangu
Yeah.
still have a city for those who aren't aware. It is Amada. It is in the deserts of the Australian coast.
Western Australia, yeah.
Western Australia. I'm not good with good enough with Australian geography to know how our friends from down under will name portions of the geography.
I think that's probably
Yeah,
Kimberley
it's-
region.
I mean,
No,
West
South
Australia
Kimberley,
is
it's a bit
like,
south of
South of
Kimberley.
Kimberley.
yeah.
I
I know
just
that
don't.
area
I know where Kimberley is. I just don't know where Hamada is.
And there is also a chance that the Anangu could settle another city for all we know. They still have room. It's not
They have a
impossible.
they have a
Power
settler
plants.
actually, so they're almost certainly going to do that.
Right.
And that's when we'll
Christmas
see.
Island, is
Yeah,
that
I mean, we saw the Murray almost kill Australia last time.
Yeah. It's
Watch,
not,
it could totally happen.
it's not impossible. But so anywho,
Once that army
Highly
comes back from that trip
unlikely.
around the sea.
I do want to get back to the point that I tried to bring up earlier, the civs on the chopping block. So we started talking about Vietnam. Before we get to our last ranked civ, let's talk about Vietnam for a bit. Do we have any real disappointments to talk about with them? Do we really think they have a good chance of dying next episode?
Well,
or do
yeah,
you
I
guys
mean,
think they'll last a bit longer? What's going on?
I was really supporting Vietnam in Southeast Asia, going into part 1, episode 1 back then. Don't know why, just felt Team Vietnam. I do know why. It's because I have fond memories of Vietnam in Mark II. They're one of my favourite civs in that game. So yeah, I'm really disappointed, to be honest. I really was expecting more of them. But there is part of me that's interested now in essentially the sort of what they leave in their wake. They leave a little rump power of Laos, which is probably going to be torn apart between Malacca and Taiping. And then we have a really interesting Indochina region with no single strong civ, which we've never really had before, because we had Vietnam back in Mark II, and we had Tongu, who were a regional power back in CBRX 1. So we're going to have a region that's never really been that divided before, suddenly become quite a little battlefield, which I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out, especially regarding some of the powerful Indian civs in the area as well. I wouldn't
Alright.
count
Given the
Bhutan out
terrain.
even.
They're given the terrain. I don't know that Laos is gonna go anywhere until like artillery. But they're I don't
I
think
mean,
if they're gonna get killed. But I don't
you just
think
said about
I don't think
Vietnam,
they're
though. You know
gonna
what I mean?
expand beyond their current borders much either.
You said about Vietnam, and Vietnam are likely to go soon. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Laos's main advantage defensively is they haven't built a coastal city.
well, I didn't say that about Vietnam. I said that Laos wasn't going to kill Vietnam, but as what you just said, Vietnam has coastal cities, which makes them inherently more vulnerable to invasion.
Mm.
When on land, Laos is completely landlocked. They have no coastal cities, and they're surrounded by mountains. So it's like actually, if anybody is the Bhutan of this game, it could be Laos.
The only two civs who've had a proper stab at invading Laos so far. I'm not counting Taiping because they barely sent anything. One is Vok, who was shit, and the other was Malacca, who did take and raise a city. So I'm not, there's precedent for Laos getting their ass handed to them.
Well, Malacca didn't take a city. Laos gave it to them in the peace treaty. Malacca never.
Oh, is that right? Fair enough.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I invested in Laos, and I'm holding because in the CBR stock market because I think that they're just going to last for a long time.
That's your answer anyway, JMAn. Your answer is what do we think about Vietnam? Is to talk for 5 minutes about Laos instead.
Yeah, we had already talked about Vietnam. I didn't
Yeah.
have anything more to add.
All right, that's fine, and I think we've already covered the Anangu, who are also down to one city and
Yeah.
are probably down for the count. But obviously, the Teutonic Order is getting a quote-unquote resurgence in the fact that they have doubled their city count in the past 2 episodes. So I think they might survive a bit longer, so long as neither Germany nor the USSR goes to war with them. But I have heard, so Finland is at war with the Teutons right now, correct? Or have they
I
peaced
think
out?
it's that's at war with the Order.
Yeah.
I
So,
think
Let me-
still, I know they went for a bit ago.
I'm
I gotta
sorry.
look about down power ranking slides.
Yeah. I mean,
See
I'm
who the
bringing
Teutonic Order's at war with.
I'm bringing up the info sheet, and the Teutons are currently
They're at war with Sweden.
they're at war with Sweden. So, and they're also at war with Parg, but that doesn't really matter. But do we think Sweden's going to being at war with them is
No.
going to make a difference when they're also at
No.
war with Germany?
No.
No, Sweden can't touch the Teutons as long as they're also at war with Germany because Germany just occupies all their attention. And I mean even if they make peace with Germany, I don't know if they could actually take the Teutons because I'm pretty sure that to get into their current capital, you can only get in there with like one naval unit at a time. So they'd have to launch an embark invasion. I just don't think it would
On the
work.
Bay of Riga.
So the Teutons seem to be able to live another day, which is surprising.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
a
the
risky
Teutons-
investment though because Germany or the USSR could declare war on them at any time.
Right, and if that happens,
Which
not
they'll
only
die inside of one part, and if you've invested in them in the stock market, for example, you just lose everything in one go.
right, and
I'd like to point out that JDT has went all in on the Teutons, and he's basically writing that out.
Yeah, he spent all of his stock market money on the Teutonic Order. I don't know. He's like, it's worked out so far.
hey,
But-
they're
Not a bad
alive.
strategy.
Not a bad idea.
They are above 61st right now, so
Yep.
Well, shall we come to our poor unfortunate 61st ranked civ?
right,
Yeah.
because I don't think Peru, Bolivia falls under
No, we
this
don't talk
category
about Jesus
anymore.
Christ.
Yeah, no. So
If you want to talk about being sad, having expectations for civs going in,
I'm just
Wales,
sad
man.
because of all the civs to fall behind here. Usually when I see a civilization die, it's usually a civilization whose uniques come out very, very late in the game. So, for example, let's not talk about them, but I'm mentioning Nazi Germany or Poland. Their late Renaissance, and then there's their industrial and modern era unique units. Wales was different because their unique unit and their unique building came out in the medieval era, and right now it's looking like they're not even going to reach that. I kind of feel bad. So for those of you guys who are only getting your information about the CBR from the PRCast, Wales is currently falling apart. They have been reduced to one city in Ireland because the Gauls, of all civilizations, decided to settle northern England and started invading Wales. The Welsh city in Brittany has been razed to the ground, and all that's left is their city in Ireland. And, you might think, oh, well, they haven't reached it yet. But no, when the episode ended, that city in Wales is absolutely surrounded by the Gauls. So right now we're expecting, oh, well, Llywelyn will probably our first death in CBRX Season 2.
I want to say that the city's in the red, too.
What was that? I'm
in the
sorry.
red, is it?
The city's in the red health zone.
I don't think it's in the
I'm
red.
pretty sure it's in like green still.
Yeah, it's not in the red health. The only reasoning I can see for this, like, senseless tragedy, is that it is payback for the Six Nations. That's the rugby joke. You're all Americans, so we'll move on from that.
Yeah, sorry. No,
Yeah, it was
I'm
totally
too dumb to
lost.
understand your, like,
Wales and
sophisticated-
France were vying for the Six Nations this year. Anyway, no, I mean, I want to shout out. You mentioned the Gaulish cities in North England. I do want to shout out that the Gauls have built a city located on the exact right tile of the best city in the world, York. So well done to the Gauls. They're the new winners for me. I now officially live in a Gaulish city. As does Skies, because we live in the same city, because that's just how the power rankers works.
Yeah, York is the capital of our power ranking.
It is the official capital of the power rankers.
Yep.
Not any of the other places where any of the other power rankers live.
Well, no,
Yeah,
because there's two in York.
Well, for a time,
There's two in York, and we both do the exact same course at the exact same university, by sheer coincidence.
Funnily enough, Nevik and I lived in the same town for like 3 years, and neither of us knew until after he was getting ready to leave the power rankers.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, that was funny.
We still, unfortunately, do not have another Chicagoan power ranker, so I'm the sole enclave here.
Chi-town, baby.
We'll move to York, and then you won't feel left out. Anyway, I think what's kind of sad about Wales is that while they were doing a shit job of colonising the British Isles, no one can really dispute that.
Nope.
I was enjoying watching their escapades in Europe. I was enjoying watching their wars with Spain, and how they were sort of messing around with Santiago de Santiago de Compostela, and fighting off Gauls, founding cities in Brittany and whatnot. And I thought, they have the potential to be a kind of big player on the European field. Maybe not big player, but just get in the way and muck about and send ships out from the safety of the British Isles to just sort of harass everyone like pirates. And I was kind of looking forward to seeing how that panned out. And then it really just all got extinguished in one episode. But that's what the Battle Royale is like. Sometimes your favourite civs just get snuffed out like candles.
Yeah, I think Wales could have been a fun civ to root for, but then they just threw the game. They should have settled more. That's it.
Are you saying that Wales could have been a contender if only they'd played their cards right?
Oh my god!
I don't think a contender, but definitely maybe a regional power.
A quick message from JMAn. I'll be right back. You guys can direct the conversation. I have to run to a room real fast.
Mysterious.
That is very mysterious.
That's like a
warning
from like a Samuel Beckett play, like a Harold Pinter.
Well, he is going to the room. Unless anyone has any more to say about Wales, I wanted to mention another civ that might actually die next turn. Besides Vietnam.
Yeah.
I think the 3 affiliated tribes might actually die by turn 6.
Yeah, there's a chance.
Episodes.
They're not when you think. They're not when you think of, because they're on 4 cities currently, obviously. But those 4 cities are really close together and in open plains, so they are ripe for just sort of ripping through. I don't think it's out of question at all.
And the Mississippi have an army that is it covers more tiles than the bottom 20 civs. It's that army is huge. It spans, it's continent spanning, and it's all coming. So I think you're probably right that it's possible that the 3 affiliated tribes will die next episode. I wouldn't be even that surprised if they died before Wales.
Yeah,
Zero is a bit of a stretch.
I don't think it's more. It's likely, but I think it's possible.
yeah. I don't think it's Yeah, I don't think it's out of the question at all. And I mean, Tat's been an interesting one because they've never really been in any way a major player on that continent. But I think Mississippi taking Tat is going to really, if they do eliminate them, it's going to really cement them as like an undisputed top dog in the North American continent. And we don't have any other continents where there is one Civ who is clearly far and away the best Civ there. And I think, ironically, if the Dene had done it, if the Dene had taken Tat, I think the Dene would have been the number one Civ in the continent. I think it really, they sort of threw a really good chance there to make a name for themselves.
Yeah.
Although we don't know
Although,
that Mississippians will sweep
as
through
much
Tat.
as much as we wish that the Dene had done that, there was still the Dene, and like I tried to deny that so hard, but it's like no, I was wrong.
Once a Dene, always a Dene.
I should have just doubted. I doubted them from the beginning, and I shouldn't have stopped doubting them.
I would gotta say I would much rather see a strong Mississippi than a strong Dene, but then I was a big Poverty Point fan in the last back in CBRX 1, so it's fairly predictable.
I'm sorry about that.
Sorry?
I mean, we have seen the Vandals do the exact opposite, where Vandals are not being Vandals for once.
And on the
Yeah,
other
it's
side,
true.
we have Carl the 12th being not Carl the 12th.
Yeah. No, the AI
You know what?
has all the civs really. Very few civs so far have like lived up to what we thought that their AI.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Wilhelm's basically been
Okay,
Wilhelm, and Punjab have been Punjab.
Yeah.
Okay, should we move on to another one now? We've talked about the Inanga already. We've talked about Punjab. So I want to talk about perhaps a bit of a complicated topic, staying in Europe for now. I want to talk about the Kosovo War, which was mainly occurred in episode 4 and sort of and petered out and sort of was resolved in episode 5. But then the sort of fallout that's followed from that as well between Two Sicilies and Germany. I think this is one of the most interesting theaters on the map right now because we have obviously a superpower in the form of Germany, maybe perhaps not a superpower yet, on the way to becoming one.
I think the Kosovo War represented the moment where Russia realized that NATO was not going to stop expanding and that was an actual threat post collapse of the Soviet Union.
Just been waiting to make that joke, haven't you?
I've returned, by the way.
I can tell he's having like a hearty chuckle behind the hedgehog.
So yeah, I think what I'm interested in is where do we see Kosovo and where do we see Two Sicilies moving on from this kind of disastrous little skirmish that they both had? Because to me it feels like they both came out worse. Two Sicilies took a city from Kosovo, and Kosovo also got their capital sacked. But then Two Sicilies immediately brought on the ire of Germany and lost that city. Like they have just retaken it. We'll probably lose it again.
Right, that was
so
a city flip.
it feels like both civs were made weaker by this war. How do you think this affects the general European continent?
I honestly am not sure. I don't know. The long-term effects, I think it probably cemented Kosovo's place as a civ that's probably going to get eliminated at some point without ever being a regional power. Two Sicilies, I think it showed like it was good effort, but and I think if Germany hadn't attacked them, they probably could have held on to Pristina. But the I don't know, the loss of Yakovleva to Germany, or inevitable loss since they currently hold it, but is a setback. But I don't think it's like the beginning of a big decline for Two Sicilies or anything like that.
To me, I will always say that Two Sicilies' success lies to the south, in that they are the naval civ of this game. Undoubtedly, even with Malacca in the game, Two Sicilies is undoubtedly the best suited to naval warfare. And right now, they are not capitalizing on their southern neighbors, and instead they are trying to fight a war with Germany, which is, already going to be an uphill battle, which they won't win. And then they've suddenly declared war on Spain, which is out of reach, so it's going to feel like like the resources are going to get invested in the wrong areas. to me, two Sicilies can still succeed, but they have to declare war on the right target. And right now, that right target is Jerusalem and the Ptolemies. Not the Vandals, not Kosovo, even though Kosovo was a fun little escapade, and it's sad that it didn't work out.
I don't really see how they could take the Ptolemies at the moment, because the Ptolemies very cleverly, when they were settling Tripolitania, that bit of Libya, they founded Naucratis, the city there, one tile off the coast, which is a very, very big brain move. So I don't think the Ptolemies. Yeah. I think they're pretty safe from the naval might of two Sicilies at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the Ptolemies do have some coastal cities, and I think
but further towards
have
Egypt.
triremes right now, whereas Two Sicilies UA just immediately upgraded all their triremes to CBRX because they researched Compass. So their navy is completely up to date already, and it's quite large. But I'm not convinced the Two Sicilies could currently take any Ptolemaic cities. The Ptolemies are just not that weak.
I'm not saying they're weak, but by all means, Two Sicilies could absolutely dominate the Ptolemies' navy, and with that, they could they have a shot at taking Cairo, and at the same time, that still also doesn't take out crushing Jerusalem or Alexandria. I'm sorry.
I'm not convinced. I mean, like, I'd probably have to go look at pictures of that area again to be completely sure, but I'm just not convinced they could take the Ptolemies right now.
That's fair. It is sad, though, that currently we are in a situation for the first time where we do not have a Southern European power. Isn't that strange?
I guess if by Southern European power you mean like power from the Iberian Peninsula,
whether that's Iberia, Italian, Balkans, we do not have.
When has, besides the Moors, when has there ever been a powerful civ from that area?
Yeah,
Sparta.
Sparta.
No.
I would argue Venice was quite powerful before Endgame.
No, they weren't.
Before Endgame, they were quite powerful.
Venice looked good in comparison to Rome.
This is some serious historical revision here.
Yeah. This is, I mean, I don't know why you're I mean, like, okay, Southern Europe, except for the Moors, has really historically been one of the weakest areas of the map. So I think it's kind of silly to just
I would argue Sparta was extremely powerful, everything given to them. They were quite a strong
I mean, they were really plucky, and they like conquered a lot of stuff they really shouldn't have done. But I wouldn't call them a power. Powerful in the sense that like they were ever a complete contender. They were always really stretched thin.
Didn't they peak into the top 10 at one point?
Played its cards right.
What?
Sparta played its cards right.
Yeah, they played their cards perfectly. I mean, they didn't have the best hand, but they played what they had perfectly. They still died.
Hey, they Deus vaulted Jerusalem once.
I mean, Sparta was just like rolling nat 20s the entire game. It was incredible, but they still died.
It's like, you can play Risk well. You can roll really good well in Risk, man, but you still got to actually know what you're doing. Actually, no, you don't. Risk is just pure luck based. What we're talking about.
Yeah, it really is.
So, shall we move on now? Then we've talked a bit about Gauls and Wales already, so we'll skip over that. I want to talk about Africa, if that's all right with people.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Africa.
I've written the Desert of Kings in my notes, and I think what I mean is we've just been talking about the Ptolemies. We have I want to talk about the Sahara Desert and who's currently we think is leading that. In the Sahara Desert, I would say our civs are the Vandals, the Ptolemies, Burkina Faso, and presumably the runaway leader, the Tuareg.
Yeah,
the underdog.
Some of the civs which could possibly be in that category is Nigeria, who haven't settled the Sahara yet, but they're pretty close, and Zaire, who are miles away but do actually have some cities over in the Sahara.
Hear me out. Why Tuareg are going to win the Sahara? They literally just took a capital city off of Burkina Faso. Who else in the Sahara can say that?
Oh, that is true.
It was their own capital, however.
Don't
Did
say
you see Europe? The Romania strategy, man, it's genius.
Saracen Serio has a point here, which is that are the Vandals actually in the Sahara? Because well, yes, technically, but I think they're really not at all a contender for taking the Sahara because
Yeah,
their
they have
might is so naval oriented. I don't think
they
I think if they attack the Tuareg, they might not even take any cities.
they
I
count
believe
because
that.
they're in the Western Sahara.
It's already tough enough that the Tuareg literally just have a great wall for the entire game, so long as they're in the desert, which they always will be. The Vandals really, they would struggle trying to do a land-focused invasion on the Tuareg.
I mean, the one city that the Vandals need to take from Tuareg is Kidal, which is not in the desert. That's the one that's sort of dividing their Morocco bit from their Algeria bit.
Yeah.
So they should take that at some point, but it's not. That's just plains hills, so that shouldn't be too difficult.
Mm. I mean, what is there to say about the Sahara? I mean, I think we were right when we said, listen, the Vandals, they're all Maghrebi. They don't really have, much of a focus on the slide we have right now. You can see almost all their units are in the Mediterranean or the Strait of Gibraltar. They've got, a good carpet, a good rug of units along the coastline, but not enough to substantiate, well, these are Saharan power. Whereas with Burkina Faso, yeah, I mean, we ranked them first for a reason in episode 1, and they are starting to dig their heels and march back up closer to that spot every episode. So
Well, not really. I mean,
not really.
They went to 17th, then they went back down to 19th because actually,
Yeah,
like Burkina Faso was really struggling against the Tuareg in a way they shouldn't have. Like right now, like the Tuareg capital has like recovered its health and it's like not in immediate danger of falling
Also,
again.
Burkina's land is devoid of units. If Nigeria put an army together and invaded now, they'd be dead.
So what you're saying is if Nigeria just decided to declare war on Burkina Faso, it would be episode 2 all over again.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Because it was saying I came first in episode 1 for a reason. That was a bad reason. It has nothing to do with why they're back up in the top 20 again now.
I mean,
It wasn't necessarily a bad reason.
Why
it was
they're
as good
in
a
the
reason
top
as any.
20 now is because they are a large civilization and they do have a pretty decent set of uniques once they get to them. Having harbors without needing coast is pretty nice to have. It's just, I agree with you. They're still gonna fall behind if they're not going to make progress. And I would say the Tuareg is one of the hardest targets, and it's one of the hardest things to pinpoint. Is the Civ struggling or succeeding despite the odds? Because the Tuareg, like I mentioned earlier, they have the Great Wall for the entire game. Everybody's going to move slow. And then the minute their units start evaporating and they don't reinforce it fast enough, nobody's going to get it back.
They still shouldn't have lost. They still should have been able to keep Avalasa. I'm not forgiving them for that.
You may be right.
Where do the Ptolemies fit into all this? The Ptolemies, to me, are one of the most infuriating civs on the cylinder right now, in terms of ranking them, because they're a civ that clearly have a lot of power. Their stats are decent.
Yeah, I think
they're clearly in a decent position with not so many super strong civs around them, and yet at the same time, I don't really know what the best thing for them to do is. I don't think invading over the Red Sea and invading Arabia is really a valid strategy at this point.
I think they should take Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. I'm having horrible flashbacks to Mamluks Israel, though. I'm thinking I don't know if I can watch that again. Not Mamluks, Ayyubids, sorry. Ayyubids Israel.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now the Ptolemies, so the only other civ in that has started in northern Africa like that's ever been remotely good was the Ayyubids in Mark II. And I think right now the Ptolemies are quite clearly better than the Ayyubids were.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I think, I mean, we're really in uncharted territory. We've never had a civ this good that's in Egypt, and we really don't know what to do with it.
For the record, I don't know that I would call the Ayyubids any better than Nubians. I think they were both about as mad as each other.
Yeah, I mean, the Ayyubids at least were entertaining. Like
yes, Nubians was tedious.
They fought some wars and took some cities, but I mean, even that's just showing you how low the bar is for Egyptian civs. Ptolemies are way beyond that at this point, so we really don't know what's going to happen to them.
Yeah, it's curious.
It is certainly strange, and it is also infuriating that the only civilization that is deemed Jerusalem worthy of a war was Punjab, and For me, Jerusalem
Other
is.
civs have declared war on Jerusalem.
Yeah, the Ptolemies even declared war on Jerusalem at one
No,
point.
no, I'm saying
He-
that
Hijaz did.
I'm saying currently the only civilization at war with Jerusalem are the Punjab, and right now that infuriates me because every single civilization in that region could arguably kill Jerusalem and take all of their cities. Arguably, they're
Yeah.
Don't need to, you know?
not that strong.
Would you say that Kosovo could kill Jerusalem?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think,
think Kosovo
given
could.
enough time to recover from the Two Sicilies War, I'm pretty certain that Kosovo could take Jerusalem.
Kosovo's, yeah, I agreed with JMAn. Kosovo's stats are so far superior to Jerusalem that yeah, give them 30 turns. Yeah,
I don't
easy.
think Kurdistan could do it either, honestly.
Kurdistan's more of a question, yeah. Although Kurdistan have more room to grow, and don't mean just like in terms of cities. They did plonk down 2 cities last episode. Just in
Well,
terms of how the fact that their population's a lot higher, the production's better.
The main problem for Kosovo, if they want to invade Jerusalem, is okay. One, the terrain's really bad, and two, I mean, I guess their like front on which to attack is just not that good. I guess the Ptolemies kind of have the same problem because they'd have to be doing like a combined
The
naval
Ptolemies is
bombardment
hard. The
attack.
Ptolemies is hard.
So
You
and then
say it.
Kurdistan has a great opening front would have a great front if they attacked Jerusalem. It's just I don't think they have what it takes to actually take them.
You say it's not good. I'm going back to Muscovy here, and how Muscovy were a big line civ, and that meant that anytime any civ tried to invade them, they were just plonking all their units at all 5 cities at once and not making much progress. Kosovo's only real choice to invade Jerusalem would be to go 1 city by once, which is much better for the AI.
Yeah,
need to
but
do that.
it's central Anatolia, and it's just not a place where like early conquest happens.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Ooh, there was something that I wanted to share. Oh, right. This reminds me. Something I wanted to share was an idea because I'm thinking about the Middle East and how it's really difficult to gauge if we're going to get a good civilization in the Middle East every single Royale. I think the best we've ever gotten was Palmyra, and I will be honest, I do not foresee any of the 3 civilizations in the Middle East right now to overtake Palmyra in terms of how well they did.
The heady heights of
Yeah,
Palmyra.
no way. None
Good.
of them are going to be as good as Palmyra was.
Right. So what I'm thinking is that eventually we should try a different approach to what civilization gets into the game. And it's just, well, we could run this on Civ AI games and Civ Battle Royale at the same time. And this is just an idea, like nobody needs to listen to me because I have no say whatsoever. But why not? Why don't we just go ahead and have most of the civilizations, if not all the civilizations that are in a particular voting region. If there's a voting region that's just way too many civilizations, we can dumb it down through voting. But let's just have them duke it out, and the winner gets included in that region. You know?
Problem is that's way more work.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
way
no.
more work, but if we started it now.
Yeah, but okay, who is gonna do it? Are you gonna do it?
No, because I have a life.
Yeah, exactly.
Newsflash, Jim, and all the people who are still very invested in the CBR, who grew up with it when they were like 17 or 18, now all have lives.
Yeah, we're all graduated from university or
Well,
doing
not
other
quite,
things.
but yeah.
Or
Yeah,
still
I
in university.
I found it when I was in college.
Grad school, like okay, we're not running like 500 Civ games to decide who goes in the next battle royale. We're just gonna vote.
Oh, it wouldn't be 500. It would just be, well,
Okay,
depending on how many more than pick one, how many regions that are more than a pick one, it would be like maximum 61 games.
Okay, yeah, but that's a huge number of AI games. That is like thousands of hours of work.
I mean, some of those AI games would be arguably very, very small. I mean, the western half of Australia, that'll be like 3 civs.
Yeah, okay, and then you've got the British Isles one and all the ones that are like that, which are humongous.
Well, that's why I said you can vote to dumb down, the top ones to be in there, and we can have it all scrunched up.
Okay, but I think that's a good idea, JMAn. But let's take it one step further. Why don't we just like do it with the vote, but actually just take the top one for the vote?
Yeah, what if we just took the winners of all the votes and put them on the map and had them fight until there's only one left?
Because then Qatar will never be in a BR, and that's
Oh,
where
Qatar,
this...
Qatar could be. The Arabia region is weak as fuck in terms of popular civs.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
Qatar definitely could be.
from what I heard, Qatar was the only modern Arabian civilization to beat any non-modern Arabian civilization. So,
Hijaz, modern.
oh well. Listen, does Hijaz
I'm sure
count
there's a
as
modern UAE mod as
modern
well.
if they're early 1900s and?
That is the definition of the modern period. Is like 1900 to 1940.
Technologically. Anywho, moving on. What are we gonna talk about now?
Well, I wanted to talk about Western China again. So I love Western China. It's my favorite region on the map.
Because Georgia's there.
Because Georgia, because it's where
Yeah,
Georgia
for
is.
some reason, Georgia is there.
So last PRcast we talked a bit about, this was back in episode 3, we talked about how Western China might be filled up by lots of random civs, and hey presto, we're in episode 5 and Western China's been filled up by lots of random civs.
Yeah,
Although it's not so random, it's not like
Yeah,
it's not a random patchwork of colonies, it actually just kind of makes sense, except of course for Georgia.
I called it. I said in the last
You
in the
did call
episode
it, yeah.
PRcast that Georgia was going to settle that area, and they fucking did.
Fucking did it. So our main players in this area, which to specify a bit further, I'm saying like the Xinjiang area of China, around the Tarim Basin, Dzungaria, that area. Our main players, of course, are Punjab, Uzbekistan, Bhutan, and Park. They're the ones who have sort of placed the most cities down there. Definitely Taiping want a sniff, or they haven't settled there, but they're sort of invading there gradually. And then there is a wonderful, wonderful Georgian city.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is an interesting area to me because number one, these are all the far-flung colonies of all these nations, except perhaps Uzbekistan. So these are hard areas to enforce, which I think means we probably won't see. We probably won't see like super volatile wars going on here for a while. At the same time, them being hard to enforce means that if one civ does decide to start building an army there, they do stand the chance of really running riot with a few colonies. And I think within the old lexicon of geohistory, there's always the theory that whoever holds Central Asia is the true world power, whether you believe that or not.
Even though no
The Soviet,
winner has ever
the
come
Soviet
from
Union
Central
was
Asia.
the true world power.
Soviet Union, the
if history was
Mongols,
that one out.
the Timurids, I guess, if they count. China, throughout much of their history, have held that area of Central Asia, of course. So, yeah, I'm kind of interested in what people think. How people think this area is going to develop, or how they'd like it to develop. Because I don't think there's actually really something you can really predict at the moment.
Yeah.
What would be the ideals? Well, okay, let's get the ideal scenario out of the way first. Georgia fortify their colony of cars. When the time is right, they declare war on everyone, sweep through, and New Georgia becomes the strongest power in Asia.
I mean,
but other than that,
I don't
fairly
see
likely.
I don't see any other possible outcome other than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sorry.
I think the given is that Georgia's city of cars goes the way of the dodo, unless nobody decides to declare war on it, which I would be happy with. But I don't know. It's a tough situation where you can't really predict what happens. I really still don't see a solid power in the region that is definitely like, oh, this is the Central Asian power. Like, yeah, you can say, oh, well, it's Uzbekistan because they control most of Central Asia and they're super strong, but they're also quiet. They don't really do much. They took one city from Kurdistan. I don't really have high hopes for them the same way that I have high hopes now for Punjab. I don't see them as defensively viable. Honestly, we haven't really had a situation where Uzbekistan has been tested in a legitimate set of circumstances. So, it's just a bunch of question marks. How am I supposed to predict what's going to happen when I really have, honest to God, no idea how any of the civs will perform there?
Well, I think I can say that I think Bhutan is going to get kicked out of the region probably sooner rather than later.
I mean, it keeps hemorrhaging cities already, so even to fucking Yuan,
Yeah.
not northern Yuan.
I'm glad I don't have to start drinking, because we all said that if Bhutan wins a war, I will start drinking.
Yep. So far,
River's
they have
safe
not
for
won any
another
wars.
day.
I mean, I think another thing that really interests me about this area is that if we presume Uzbekistan stick around for a while, which they might not, but let's presume they're decent power. This is probably going to be the first area where we see our current number 1 and number 2 actually exchange blows, Parg and Punjab. This is going to be like the first sort of near bordering region. So this could be
Yeah.
sort of an early little snapshot into who's coming out top between those two nations. And again, they're both sort of as distant from their core as each other. I think they're both sort of, fringes of the empire. I don't think one has an advantage in that sense. So I am
Yeah,
kind of interested to see if that fires up at any time soon. What happens to that?
I think for a while yet, wars in that region are going to be about just like civs with small detachments far from the core, taking completely undefended cities that then stay at one pop for the next 50 turns. And I'm not really convinced. We're gonna see like huge, huge mobilization into that area.
We've lost Rosay.
Mm.
Yeah, no, you may well be right. The other possibility, of course, which I sort of hinted at before, there is one civ whose core is right next to that area, who has not yet really made a gambit into it, but definitely could sweep through the big army and has been moving their army, and taking a few cities on those western fringes. And that's, of course, Taiping. I would be quite entertained if Taiping never settled a city in Western Asia and still conquered it all.
Yeah, it could
Which I
happen.
think could happen. Or maybe it's Yuan. I mean, Yuan have started that conquering route. They conquered that one Bhutanese city.
Yeah,
in
that's exactly the
Mongolia.
type of conquest that I was talking about. It's just, I think what I'd expect from that region for.
Yeah, well, it's a funny one. We didn't really see how it happened. It was completely off camera. I only noticed it when I was making my map at the end. I was like, "That's a." Originally, I thought it was a Manchu city because the coloring is a bit off because we changed Bhutan's colors.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a Bhutanese city, which was founded in episode 5, and Yuan took it in episode 5, and we don't know anything else about it really.
Mm-hmm.
It all happened off camera. So let's move to a completely different continent. I want to go back to the New World.
Oh yeah, that I also want to talk about the New World for 2 reasons. First, I want to celebrate our second transcontinental power in CBRX Season 2. Does anybody know who it is?
It's Chinook. Sorry, the Chukchi.
It's the Chukchi. The Chukchi are transcontinental now. They took a city
Or
off of Chinook.
intercontinental.
What?
Intercontinental.
Intercontinental. Whatever.
They're not the same thing.
Yeah.
No, transcontinental means across a single continent, like from one end to the other. Intercontinental means between
Oh
different.
yeah, trans. Wait. Okay, sure. You'd think I know what trans meant.
Yeah, breaking news. Flax has no idea what is trans.
Oh man.
What is trans? Anyway.
Electric Boogaloo says Chukchi is trans now. Ooh, canon. So.
Oh, I'm owning that. I love the Chukchi.
Yeah, I love the Chukchi, and I'm so glad that they are good at war, because this is their 3rd war that they've had a major success in. Is that right?
Second.
They took a city off Japan. Now they took a city off Chinook, and that's about all they've done.
They're popping off right now. They're popping off. I mean, the Great Wall was a huge pull. Like, no one's going to be invading. I mean, it kind of is, because they land so far out the way. I don't think it really matters anyway. I think the only invasions we're probably going to face were naval ones. But like, they have been. If we talk about people who've been blessed with weak neighbors, imagine your 2 main neighbors being Japan and the Manchu. You couldn't ask for better neighbors.
I also want to share that the cities among the Chukchi have a lot of extra tiles, because you'll notice in the slide that's currently on screen now, I'll try to pause it. A bunch of cities, just have tiles from the unique ability that the Chukchi have, which allows them to take tiles adjacent to their own. So I thought that was really neat.
I refuse to spend half an hour talking about the Chukchi UA again. We can't do this every episode.
I know, but I love them. They're my favorite.
No, I do like them. They're doing really well. I'm really happy to see. I don't know. They're just not a civ that I think any of us put major stock in succeeding, because they were so far out of the way and in such bad terrain. So it's just nice to see them carve out a niche for themselves, which is what they've done, really. they've said, you know what, we did start in fucking shit terrain, so let's settle south. Let's build up a good navy instead of doing anything that people expect.
Right.
Yeah.
And do it that way, which I really, admire. I admire a civ that, gets dealt a pretty bad hand and goes, all right, well, okay, let's do a complete change of strategy.
Yeah.
Let's
The
do this.
Chukchi drumroll please, playing their cards right.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
On top of that, according to Aaron, the Chukchi are going hard into science. The only other civ doing the same is Nigeria.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is true.
Yeah, Chukchi are top in science right now.
This just said it all. Like, they got the Great Wall, which is one of the good wonders. You'll notice the big science civs are always the big wonder civs as well. Nigeria actually built 3 wonders last episode, although none of them particularly good. But if they can keep up the wonder game as well, get some of the the great wonders in the future, the Red Fort would be fantastic, obviously. Yeah, I mean, they're an interesting one because I think they do still have the slight problem, which a lot of naval civs have, which is that what do you do when you run out of seas to conquer? So the Manchu are edible. Japan are obviously very edible, at least the Japan bit, maybe not the Manchuria bit right now. And the Chukchi have a lot of coastal cities. They could definitely raid them for days. At that point, I'm wondering how the Chukchi move forward. They don't really have enough of like a land base to build a solid land army yet. So I don't know what their best bet is. I mean, arguably maybe settle more in Russia, but again, it's terrible land. There's not really any point.
Yeah, I think they could settle a couple more cities in Russia, but I think mainly they should become a naval power. They should take over Japan's home island cities, and they should continue to try to pick as many cities off the Chinook as possible in Alaska. They should take over Hawaii. They should just go like all the way, just go full naval. I mean, what's the downside? All the civs around the coast are weak.
Do a super chilly. Just conquer all the coastlines and nothing else.
Yeah.
There's only one
it's long Chukchi.
I mean, in more seriousness,
that's really susceptible to a land invasion for the Chukchi right now, and that's Yokohama. Or what's the city that's that they took off Japan that's on the mainland coast?
Nagaoka.
I don't know. I just call it the city they took off Japan on the mainland coast.
Yeah.
It's Nagaoka. I mean, I'd say arguably the Chukchi's best strategy is, obviously take Japan, take the Manchu land, because actually they could take that. Most of those cities are coastal, and then they do have that kind of land base in Korea to actually invade some of the other weak spots, the Japan mainland, the Yuan, and at that point they're a pretty solid Asian civ. So I think there's definitely a lot of potential in the Chukchi right now. It's just they've had to carve a rather difficult path already, and it's not really going to get any easier. That's what I'd say. Right. I want to move on to a very bizarre area of the cylinder currently. A cylinder where nothing makes sense, where one of the bottom 10 civs can take cities from one of the top 10 civs, and everyone just shrugs and goes, well, that's Quebec for you. It's Quebec. I want to talk about Quebec, the Quebecois, Newfoundland, Labrador, that area.
So you're talking about New Netherland taking Mossfellsbar from...
Sorry, this was actually... I was specifically talking about the neutral nation taking a city from the Mississippi.
Oh. I guess
but
that's
yes,
also
the New Netherlands taking Mossfellsbar from Iceland as well. That happened in technically Nova Scotia. No, right. New Brunswick. Oh, it might be in Quebec, actually. Gaspé Peninsula, Quebec. So yes, this is a bizarre area. So the neutral nation should have had Quebec on lock. We all know that. They completely threw it. And that's left this big area, which isn't as shit land as it has been in past CBRs, being colonized by Iceland, by Mississippi, by the New Netherlands, and finally some neutral cities as well.
I think it's a pretty fun area, honestly. It's just so.
It is a really fun area
that are like not contiguous to anything and just belong to different empires.
Who's winning it? Who's most likely to unite it? If you're going to make one call as to who unites Quebec,
New Netherland.
Yes, I think that's fair.
I think,
which is an interesting one because they actually got their main colony in Quebec taken from them this episode.
Well, I really like the trade that happened with New Netherland because Iceland had a lot to gain. New Netherland had a lot to gain from that war between each other. And instead of, having one civ dominate the war, they just traded cities. but instead of, just going, oh, well, nothing gained, nothing lost, well, Iceland lost a pretty substantial city, a more fertile city, a city that wasn't in tundra. They took Mosfellsbar, whereas Iceland took Staten Island,
Yeah.
and
Staten Island, Quebec.
yeah, Staten Island, Quebec, and Staten Island is it's not a good city, and it's pretty disconnected from the rest of North America. It wasn't really a great invasion point to start with, and Iceland having that, it's kind of like, well, you didn't lose too much after losing Mosfellsbar, but I don't know.
Iceland lost a good thing with the Mosfellsbar, but the window on Mosfellsbar being useful was already closing. I mentioned a bit about it before, how it would be useful as a staging point to raid the New Netherlands if they remained weak. Unfortunately, that just didn't last very long. New Netherlands buffed up quite quickly and actually became a decent force to be reckoned with. And at that point, I think there wasn't much use of Mosfellsbar anymore because it was too close to the New Netherlands core to really stand any chance of being of not being invaded.
Which is why I think New Netherlands are the most likely to unite Quebec, despite losing a city in Quebec in this episode, which is the city they lost in the city that wasn't that last episode? I don't remember. The city they lost wasn't that important. It was newly settled, and with the fact that the war with Iceland has ended, they took Mosfellsbar and they kept their other city that they founded in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
Those cities are only going to get reinforced more and grow over the next couple of episodes. And I think if there's another war between New Netherlands and Iceland, New Netherlands is going to win. They're probably going to take back the city they lost.
At the same time, we cannot deny that there is only one civ in the Quebec area who have made gains and advances in the last episode without taking any losses at all. And that's the Neutral Nation, baby.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just going to ignore the cities they lost in the episode before
that was episode 4. I'm not interested in episode 4. I'm interested in episode 5, man. That, as far as I'm concerned, that's the newest episode. That's the one I'm talking about.
Neutral Nation crawled up the ranks a little bit, but it's hardly impressive, all things considered. Ignore Chuck Norris. So it's hardly impressive, all things considered. I think that overall, Neutral Nation gaining a city off of Mississippi is more dumb luck than anything else, especially since Mississippi is divided between its northwest point and northeast point. And at the same time, I think Mississippi could take that city back if they really wanted to invest the resources in it. But
which they clearly don't.
I think the AI right now is sitting around and going, oh, well, 3 affiliated tribes looks like a much yummier snack than the city we lost in the Great Lakes. Which overall is just better for New Netherland. I mean, the weaker the actual powers are in comparison to New Netherland, the more opportunities New Netherland has to conquer the civilizations around it. Which I know really excites my friend Ed, who I hope is watching. I know you're really excited about New Netherland. I'm rooting for them too.
Anytime anyone says neutral,
but I am now.
Anytime anyone says Neutral Nation, I just think of Neutral Milk Hotel. That's what I think of immediately. I think one of the interesting things about New Netherlands and their prospects on the continent is that I said a couple of episodes back that the area between New Netherlands and Mississippi had remained sort of mysteriously unsettled, and it still is. Like, neither of them are really touching that kind of Appalachia area, which is good for New Netherlands. It means that they don't have a hugely important and deadly civ snapping at their heels immediately. And obviously Mississippi are clearly focusing on other fronts right now anyway.
I feel like
it's Ohio, and nobody wants to settle in Ohio.
I was thinking Mississippi and New Netherlands had signed some kind of reverse Molotov-Ribbentrop pact where they agreed to not divide this area.
Yeah.
It's the burr to wheel of the Civ Battle Royale.
It's like just a little buffer zone, and I like it. I'm a big fan. I think I'm enjoying watching the buddy teams so far that are emerging, and I think Mississippi and New Netherlands are my second buddy team for being right next to each other, but just not going near each other. No, we're bros. And my favorite buddy team is easily Malika and the VSC, who are right next to each other, but have still not gone to war and just keep bullying the nations up north as much as they can. It's like Malakar is like the big bully, and VOC is like the really scrawny sidekick who like is only friends with the bully because they don't want to get beaten up.
Aaron points out Mississippi declared war on the neutrals with only 4 unescorted settlers as their attack force.
Settler Squad.
Settler squad, yeah.
And they finished with 3 cities. That's not bad.
I have to go now, but I will wish you all luck.
All
See you
right.
later, Msurdej.
Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Msurdej. Have a good one, my friend.
Or was Msurdej?
And now it's the leadership.
So I think, yeah, I mean, I do think Mississippi, I mentioned this before, I think they're very interesting in that I still don't really know who rivals them on the continent yet, but New Netherlands definitely they're definitely my number 2, even if I think Chinook is still ranked higher in the rankings. I think, for me, it's only a matter of time until New Netherlands become an obvious number 2 to them.
Yeah, New Netherlands are ranked below Chinook right now, but Chinook has negative momentum. New Netherlands have positive momentum. I think we're going to see New Netherlands become the number 2 in North America pretty soon.
I think, yeah, by next episode, I would
So-
expect, unless something drastic
Probably.
happens.
So, guys, I want to
let's-
share something with you because it's going to drive
Okay.
me crazy, and I know it's the most difficult thing in the world. New Netherland.
No.
It's not Netherlands. It's Netherland, singular. New Netherland.
That's what I've been saying, isn't it?
No, you guys keep saying New Netherlands, and it's driving me nuts.
I literally
I
refuse
literally have not noticed.
to change my speech patterns for the Dutch.
Why should I do anything?
It's
to, like...
grammatically correct in both English and Dutch. It's one land.
All right, windmill folk. I want to move to the more a more finely balanced continent. Perhaps one of the most finely attuned, fascinating continents of all.
The most boring continent on the entire CBR, South America.
I don't think it's boring. I think
think
there's
it's
a lot of
actually
very
really
interesting things to say about it.
It's really
South
interesting, but
America is
nothing's
balanced.
happening.
Well,
Nothing.
here's the interesting thing about South America.
If they play their
I've called it in my
cards
notes.
right.
I called it the four-way continent because there are 4 nations who all have the superlative in a various important stat. You've got the Mapuche, who clearly have the most cities. You have Paraguay, who have by far the largest army. You have Palmares, who are thrashing everybody else on production, and you have the Marajoara, who are technologically way ahead of everybody.
Yeah. So
They're
I like
so
to say
finely
South
balanced,
America is
and I'm interested in what people think.
South America is perfectly balanced, and I like to imagine South America is perfectly balanced in the same way that a Rube Goldberg machine is. it's like how did we even get here? But yeah, there's
Yeah, it's a weird little 4-way tie that's going on there. I mean, obviously it's not a tie in the rankings. I think the rankings currently go Marajoara, Paraguay. I want to say Mapuche, Palmares, but it might be Palmares, Mapuche. I remember.
I believe
Palmares is
I believe Palmares is at the head.
right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious. After episode 4, Palmares seemed like a pretty clear front runner on the continent. Finally, but episode 5 has kind of muddied that again. After their war with Paraguay didn't really go anywhere. And another obviously big factor in this is the sort of the race of Patagonia, as Palmares and Mapuche have kind of opened up the front against each other there. But it does kind of remain to be seen how much Palmares will actually be able to reinforce that. Probably not very much. So they may well just be 3 Mapuche cities. Marajoara have an interesting little another little boost to them, which is that unlike the other 4 civs, they have a decently sized but also very weak nation that they can bully and take some cities from. That's Gran Colombia. Yeah, I don't know. What do people think? Who are people backing at the moment? If you had to quickly do a ranking of the South American civs now, who are you putting number 1?
Palmares.
Okay.
So it's like, shoot, I want to put like Palmares and Paraguay tied for first, and then Mapuche in like 1.2 instead of second.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I was going to say
Marjuara clear last of the four.
I was going to say Mapuche on my first. So it's interesting. We're as closely balanced as the South Americans are, I guess.
Yeah. It is a complicated region to rank, and everybody has a right to rank them first in the region for many different reasons. I mean, South America is certainly an interesting area where it's divided up very weirdly. Civs are succeeding in different areas. I think Marjuara could pull ahead on growth just based off of their unique building if they're left alone long enough, and that might be, a strange factor that we're not really considering, but at the same time,
given their science is already high.
What was that?
Given that their science is already high, that is a decent.
Exactly. Like, that could be excellent for them. I will say, Peru, Bolivia, number 1. Never underestimate the power of Wonder Bread commissions. Oh yeah, I do love Peru, Bolivia. I wish Peru, Bolivia were doing better. So one thing I do want to note is that aside from our main 4 in South America, should we acknowledge that we finally have a Panamanian canal?
A Panama Canal, yeah. You get a Panama Canal every game. There's so many tiles that you can build the Panama Canal on that it's very unlikely that the Panama Canal.
How long is that going to be open before someone gets a trireme stuck sideways in it?
Oh man. So.
Oh, good meme.
Oh god, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss it in the saddest way. Like, I don't want it to happen again, but that was a great moment in history.
Oh, it was such a good week. I had a friend who just keep message every single morning with the boat is still stuck.
Yeah, my friends and I would just send like every ever given meme we could find. We would just send to each other. It's like that was a moment where I felt like we were all in on this great joke, and I was kind of disappointed when they freed the boat. Honestly,
it's sad because
one was a picture of It was a picture of the Indian Ocean, and the caption was just like, "Uh-oh," and it was the ship, but now it was blocking all the way from South Africa to Antarctica.
It's just insane.
So now you can't go that way either.
We're all saying we miss it, but at the same time, it was probably one of the most debilitating weeks in the world economy.
I don't care. Fuck capitalism.
It's not capitalism. A lot of developing countries rely on that canal.
Yeah, that's fair.
A lot of people who are struggling are like, hey, that's where our food comes from, and it's not moving.
Yeah. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
It was funny. There's no way around it. It was
fucking hilarious, but I still feel bad about laughing about it. It's like this thing that everybody should feel bad about laughing about, and they know it, but we're all still laughing about it anyways.
I don't care. It's
no shame.
It's
no
too
shame.
funny. Does anybody else have any closing thoughts on either South America or anything else? Because we're at the end of our list of topics.
Aaron has noted that Marjuara have invested in naval techs, the Compass, and have the opportunities to start settling the Caribbean now. Not that there's a lot of room in the Caribbean left, but they can still settle there.
Yeah, I mean, the Palmares got to the Caribbean first, bizarrely, and well, apart from Jamaica. And now New Netherlands have settled about 2/3 of Cuba. But we've still got a few places left to settle. So we've got Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles. I think, well, I would say one of the reasons I think I'm going to put Mapuche top at the moment is because they do have the most cities. And I do think they will take those cities from Palmares in the south as well. I don't think Palmares will be able to defend those.
They're not defensible, no.
I'm remembering every other CBR and it taking about 20 episodes before anyone makes any progress against anyone in the rough terrains of South America. And I'm thinking, actually, the Civ who's going to be better off are the Civ who can build up now and get a big Civ and a big base together now. And for me, that's Mapuche. Not only have they got still a bit of space to expand into, they've also got Peru, Bolivia to finish off whenever they feel like it. And at that point, I feel like they look like an obvious runaway winner in the region. Whereas Palmares, while their production is great, they've also hit a ceiling regarding their core. At least they're out of space. Maybe they can fit a city in between one of the cities. I'm not sure, but they can't expand into any new sort of virgin territory near their core. That's their core, and it's only about 5 cities.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree. I think that I'm really on the verge of considering Mapuche #1 in South America, just because their stats aren't great, but it's clear that they're in the easiest, best position to increase their stats out of all of the civs.
One thing that is for sure.
So I think all your points are valid for sure.
One thing that is for sure, though, if Paraguay declare war, that could be disastrous for them.
Oh yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, if Paraguay attacks them now, that calculus completely changes. But if
that
Paraguay
area is actually one of the 2 areas of South America where it is easy to invade.
But if
Sorry?
Paraguay waits 30 turns to attack them, Mapuche could easily have a larger army than them by then.
Well, yes, exactly. I mean, what I'm saying is if Paraguay attack tomorrow, but we'll see.
Yeah, they have to do now.
Another thing that I think is notable, just since we're done with our topics, a couple things I want to bring up is we didn't really see the southern half of Africa this episode. We didn't see Namibia. We didn't see Zaire. We barely saw Somalia. We didn't see Zanzibar. We didn't see Lesotho. And honestly, there was some changes over there that, maybe we should have seen. Madagascar has 4 cities on it now, with a 5th on the way.
You say there were some changes, but besides Madagascar, I really don't know what they are.
Yeah.
For one, Namibia hasn't lost 4 cities and resettled 3 of them. As usual. I'm just saying is that's a region that, might be not exciting in terms of wars right now, but it was a region that changed up. And how is that stability amongst those 4 civilizations affecting them right now? How are they growing?
It is something of a powder keg. Now, I think there's a clear and obvious hierarchy in that Zaire, Lesotho are the top tiers. Probably Zaire above Lesotho. Namibia are middling, and Zanzibar are waiting to be eaten. But I think there is. I think you're right. I think there's certainly. We saw Zaire and Lesotho. Sorry, Namibia and Lesotho go to war right at the beginning of the game. And even that early on, that resulted in a city flip, a capture of a city for Namibia by Lesotho. And likewise, when Namibia and Zaire went to war, Zaire took and raised a city from Namibia. So we know that area can result in big city flips, even in the really early game. And now we're sort of entering that medieval era where sort of more major wars fought with bigger armies start to become more commonplace. I do think we could see a big surprise, or perhaps not surprise, but a big war kicking off there sooner rather than later. For me, Namibia kind of holds the key in that they definitely look a more likely civ to go down than Lesotho or Zaire, but who do they go down to, Lesotho or Zaire? Lesotho have the more obvious shot, but at the same time, that it wouldn't count out Zaire moving an army down south and sweeping through a lot of Namibia early. I think that's going to decide a lot of the future of the sub-Saharan African continent, whatever happens there. Because at the moment, I wouldn't. Yeah, Zaire and Lesotho is really hard to call it a contest between the two. I don't know how much if they both go to war either. No idea. So it is an interesting area. Certainly, it just wasn't particularly interesting in episode 5, as you say. Other than Madagascar getting settled, mostly by Lesotho, 1 city from Zanzibar, there wasn't much to look at really. Not much to update on the minimap either. On my map, I should say. But yes, there's trouble is definitely brewing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next time it all flares up again.
I don't know what happened, but I just got a ding.
That's exciting.
So whoever gave me a ding, please write what you did because I'm not seeing it. That could have been a follow. That could have been, a donation. Oh my god, I'd cry if you guys donated something to me. But
I'm
whatever.
donating you $5 next episode, I imagine.
Oh yeah, Venmo. Yeah, so I was actually going to talk about that. So, Senshi and Lacsirax Ariscal, barring a miracle, probably owe me $5 each.
Yeah, I mean, Hawaii and Tahiti literally went to war and then made peace this episode with nothing happening, so...
Well, thank you for the follow, Kartoffelin. I appreciate it. But Yeah, so the whole bet that we had on episode 1 when Tahiti first settled Fa'a was
I
if
eat my words.
if
You win this wager. You sir win the internet.
I
By the
knew it.
internet I mean
So
me.
Senshi Denshi, who I don't know is watching, and Lacsirax Ariscal both owe me $5 each if Hawaii does not take Fa'a by next episode, which probably won't happen.
I get paid on Friday, so I can afford this.
Yeah, there we go. Not. I mean, I feel bad that $5 or £4 for you is, struggling, but
No, I'm fine. It's fine.
yeah.
But
Yeah, but I
I
did
am
want to talk about the
disappointed.
South Pacific because
No.
Lili Wakalani is currently at war with the Kulin, and Hilo is under siege in Papua New Guinea. And
No,
not
I don't
only
want to talk about it.
not only that, but Japan has a settler in the South Pacific, and the Kulin have
We can talk about
two
Japan. We can talk about
settlers in the
Japan
South
settlers.
Pacific.
They've had a settler in the
So-
South Pacific for like 3 episodes. This point.
So yeah, at the end of episode 3, they had a settler. At the end of episode 3, they had a settler going down
I'm
to.
convinced they're going to the Americas.
Yeah, at the end of episode 3, Japan had a settler going down to the southern area of Japan, and we were like, oh, great. By the end of episode 4, that settler was in the Bismarck Archipelago near Papua New Guinea. And by the end of episode 5, it was on its way to Tahiti. Not only that, but they built another settler in episode 5. Where's that? It's on its way to Hawaii for some reason.
I don't know how Japan can have so much land just directly south of the capital and just go, no, why would we want that? Why? Send it off to unknown waters and see what happens.
I mean, here's the thing, and I don't understand this logic, and someone's going to have to explain my own psyche to me. When Georgia did this, I was like, fuck yeah. And Japan doing it is really annoying me. So explain that one.
Georgia was the civ we never expected to do well. We expected them to be like a boring turtle in the Caucasus. Japan, we actually thought would be competent.
I didn't even necessarily think Japan would be competent. I just thought Japan had more opportunities to succeed. And look at that. They aren't succeeding. Whereas Georgia's like, listen, we may not be in the best place, but we've settled Central Asia, guys. We've settled Siberia. Like we're doing way better than Japan is.
You can't just call all cold bits of Russia Siberia. Cloudberg will get angry at you.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, I tried calling it Nanicha, and then you guys are like, it's not Nanicha.
It's Archangelsk Oblast.
Oh,
okay?
It's part of European Russia. It's just very far north.
So it's Arkhangelsk.
Arkhangelsk.
Yeah, Arkhangelsk.
That's the area they settled.
All right. So I'll try to remember from now on that Georgia has settled Arkhangelsk, and hopefully, it does something for them. I don't think, but I'm just sad that the South Pacific so far has shaped up to be quite boring. I mean, I expected it to be like slow, but the fact that it's so empty and devoid
JMAn,
of
you had
life,
Tahiti in 3rd place. You expected it to be brilliant.
I didn't put in 3rd place. That's a lie. I put in 19th. I put 2 Sicilies in 3rd place.
Does anybody have any other closing thoughts?
Okay. So we're all in agreement that whales will probably die by next episode.
Yeah, I think they're gonna die. I think 3 affiliated tribes could also easily die next episode. Vietnam could die.
Yeah.
Nangu, I think, is probably okay.
Nangu are fine.
For all those civs though, regardless, to anyone who's listening, who's participating in stonks, trading advice: get rid of those stonks. I mean, I was very thankful that I only had 10 stonks and whales, and I sold all of them. I was like, nope, not even going to take the bold prediction that they live this episode. I'm just going to make $100 back and hope for the best.
The chance of them surviving rests only on a peace treaty.
Aaron has a spicy prediction that Somalia will die to Zanzibar, and Somalia will end 60th place.
That's pretty spicy. Not gonna lie.
I'd like to see Somalia die because they're by far the most, not even most boring, but most just like, yeah, why, why are you here?
I mean, they
You
aren't
did not earn a
totally
place.
incompetent. They did take a city off of Hijaz, which, has
I know,
had
it's so
negative
annoying.
science for the past 2 episodes. Do they still have Do they still have garbage tier science, by the way, Cloudberg?
Let's find out.
Who are we talking about? Hejaz or
Hijaz.
Somalia?
Yeah, I'm looking at Hijaz's. I'm looking up the info sheet right now. Statistics. Science. And go down where Hijaz. They're near the bottom. Okay. Their current net gold per turn, they're earning minus 58 gold per turn, and they have 41 in the treasury.
Oh, so they're not negative science yet.
Well, they are, but only negative 17, not the full negative 58.
Oh,
So
there
how
we
much?
go.
Okay, how much science do they currently have? They have. I only see effective science on here. They have an effective science of 68. So they're going to be damn near zero if they run out of money in the treasury. And I guess there was a bit where they weren't researching techs at all because they were losing more gold than they were producing beakers. So that, it doesn't actually work this way, but I like to imagine they were actively unresearching techs.
What is this sword shit? We need to go back to bronze.
I mean, yeah.
Return to monkey. Yeah.
Something like Pol Pot.
I was just about to say Pol Pot neo-Ludditism or Ludism or whatever it's called.
Yeah, gosh. Hedges are a weird civ, but I don't know if I have enough content to talk about them for that long.
I mean, is there a civilization that either of you guys want to talk about that we didn't touch on enough, in your opinion, today?
No, I think we've about covered it.
Yeah, I think we covered just about every civilization too. Like, we've mentioned all of them except for Chola. I think Chola was the only civ that went unmentioned. And Tongva. Rio Grande and Tongva. Those were the 3 civilizations. Oh, and the Dene.
Olmecs.
And the Olmecs.
The Olmecs. Yeah.
I mean, the Olmecs took Portmore. That's notable, right? Oh, JFD says Hijaz developed dementia. That's pretty good.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah. But I think the Olmecs taking Portmore is notable, isn't it? I mean,
I don't think we actually talked about the Northern Yuan.
Oh, that's not JFD. For some reason, I thought Mr. N2 Electric Boogaloo was JFD. I am incorrect.
The Olmecs are. That's all I have to say on the Olmecs. Tune in next time.
All right. So, well, if that'll be all, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the chat box feature that I added to the stream. I know it's so advanced. No streamer has ever had that. But thank you so much for watching the Civilization Battle Royale X Season 2 PRcast for episodes 4 and 5, which was mainly just a PRcast for episode 5. This has been JMAngelo67, aka TickieJames on Twitch, aka VideoJames on YouTube. Thank you for those who followed during this episode. If you guys could follow, if you have not, I'd be really appreciative of that. The closer I get to affiliate status, the more I can be like, oh, lol, I made $1 by doing PRcast every month, which would be nice. That aside, subscribe to me on YouTube. You guys might see other content aside from Civ Battle Royale stuff. If you're interested in Warhammer, if you're interested in soccer, or football as most people care to call it. Yeah, I'd love for the... Oh, no, wait. Mr. N2 Electric Boogaloo isn't JFD, it's Top Hat. I don't know why I got him and Top Hat confused. But aside from that, me interrupting my own monologue, this has been JMAngelo67. I've been joined by Admiral Cloudberg.
Yeah, hi. I think this is the first time I've actually gone to the end of one of these, so it was good.
I've also been joined by Lacsirax Ariscal.
I have never missed a minute of the PR cast.
You have. I was also joined by Rosay and Msurdej, and sadly they're not here for various reasons. But thank you guys so much for joining us, for everybody for viewing this. The PRcast recording ends now.